Hey guys, welcome back to another Walking Dead video, and I lost my sanity while making this, so please subscribe, and yeah, let's jump right into it. This is a full series, Walking Dead retrospective. So, I think we all know the story of The Walking Dead, and I just want to say that this video won't be to cover every single minor event in the series, or just the whole timeline of the series in general, but rather just a video that looks back in retrospective of what made the game great and why we love it so much to this day. So now the question is, why do we still love it so much to this very day? While I really do feel like you can contribute a lot of the season's success to Lee and Clementine and other characters like Kenny, Krista, or Omid, which were, in my opinion, and mostly everybody else's opinion, some of the highlight characters of the season. Not to forget any of the other memorable faces of the season, like Duck, Katja, Molly, or any of those other type of characters that you kind of love to see in the background and just like know that they're there, I guess. And here on screen is where I made basically just a little tier list of all the characters that we meet in season 1 of the game. And I just kind of ordered them in my enjoyment of me and my personal opinion seeing them in the game and how much I liked seeing their appearances, I guess. But one thing I don't think any of us can really deny is who the GOAT of the season is. And if you're expecting me to say Clementine, I'm sorry, I wish I could, but it's gotta be Lee here. And the dynamic of choices and decisions in the game is something that you'll see consistently throughout the entire series, but I really do like how they kind of bring it all the way full circle with, kind of having to protect Clementine as Lee, and then as we go all the way later on down the line to seasons like season 3 and 4, and you could even throw in 2 there if you wanted to, which is Clementine protecting AJ. I've always thought it's kind of funny how in Telltale they say your choices matter, but in reality, sometimes in the game it seems like it kind of doesn't, but hey, we all still fuck with the story regardless, so I'm gonna just leave it how it is. I'm not gonna make any complaints about that. I mean, hey, I still love the series, so fuck it. But one thing I think we all can't deny is the way Lee went out. Man, that shit took us out. And with Lee being out of the picture, that leads us to our next destination. This season picks up pretty much almost where it left off last season with our surviving characters Clementine, Omid, and Krista. The only visible difference now being that Krista seems to be pregnant, which is also a detail in season 1. If you pay attention closely enough, you might be able to catch that Krista was pregnant back when they were stuck in the mansion. And something that really caught a lot of fans and players off guard, including me, after playing through the first season, was how early on some of our main key characters died, like Omid.
Daddy, you're a poser.
And very, very shortly, right after Omid's death, Krista hits probably one of the nastiest no-scopes in gaming history.
Mean.
Now we had lost one of the 3 remaining main members from Season 1. But little did the players know, that wasn't the only person that we were going to lose from Season 1. The next time we see our characters, it's been 16 months since Omid's death, and Krista seems to have lost the baby. And we have a new objective set in our sights, a place called Wellington. I feel like I should bring this up pretty early on since we're on Season 2 right now, and let's just say that by now, the players should get the kind of tone for this season. I mean, it is The Walking Dead, so it always does kind of have that eerie, depressing tone to it. But Season 2 is just so much more harsh and brutal and depressing. And I think most of you guys watching this will agree with me down in the comments below. And since we're talking about how dark and brutal the season is, I just want to put a little video on screen for y'all to go look at, because there actually was a different ending for Season 2, or a different plot in general that was just a lot more dark. So, if you guys are interested in that, go check that out. But back to the video. We see Krista trying to teach Clementine the things that she needs for survival before being interrupted by a group of bandits traveling through the woods.
Don't fucking lie to us! Who do you think you're fooling? Give us the truth and you don't get hurt! You with me? Where's the rest of your group?
I'm by myself.
Bullshit! She's lying. Cut the shit, lady.
It's just me.
Come on, guys! What the fuck?
Krista, run!
So, while this is presumably an off-screen death for Krista, we actually never get an answer throughout the entirety of Season 2, despite Clementine asking about her pretty much every single episode of the season. In my personal opinion, it kind of sounded like they pushed her down and shot her, or she fell and got shot, but I think she's really dead. You guys let me know in the comments down below. But anyway, continuing with the video. Shortly after this whole ordeal takes place, Clementine falls off the cliff and gets swept away down the stream. After washing up on shore, Clementine gets attacked by a dog, and then the game will prompt you to beat the absolute shit out of it. Eventually, you'll complete the task, and depending on your choices, you can either leave the dog or finish it off and stop it from suffering. Once again, one of the plentiful examples of this season just sucking, but not in a bad writing type of way, but just the situations our characters find ourselves in. Clementine being basically stuck on this rock does present a problem, as walkers do soon show up, as they always do in classic Walking Dead fashion. When this happens, Clementine is forced to escape, and the player is able to accomplish this by hobbling away at the slowest possible pace imaginable.
Help! Help me! Help!
This is where we meet our 2 first notable new characters of the season, Luke and Pete. In my opinion, you gotta be kind of crazy to not like Luke a little bit as a character in this depressing ass season, and Pete is just, well, whatever, I guess. He doesn't really last that long. But after Luke and Pete meet Clementine, they soon after discover something that changes things maybe just a little bit.
You some oh shit! What? What is it? She's been big, man. Fuck. What are we gonna do here?
No, it was a dog.
But I also kind of feel like this is a thing in the season that me and a lot of other players can agree on. Like, how did they not recognize that this was a dog bite and not a zombie bite? Like, I feel like it's kind of obvious, but once again, this is going to be one of those examples. Like I said earlier, I love the series, so fuck it. But anyways, soon after that, Clementine ends up passing out.
Oh, shit.
But enough about all these other characters, because we all know the main man we're looking for here. The one and only Kenny. So we all remember the introduction where we actually got to see that Kenny had actually survived the events of Season 1. And from there, we get our little reunion phase in Season 2, which is kind of just us catching up with this group that Kenny has been with on a ski lodge. Now, in this segment of Season 2, I just kind of want to talk about the darker side of Kenny and the events that made him like this. And it changed him to be a lot different than Season 1. Mostly because of this man right here. And this situation for Kenny was pretty tragic.
Fucker.
No, stop it! It's Kenny!
Oh, shit.
Phil! That's enough, Phil! Please! Phil, there's a breach!
So after we literally see Kenny almost enter the afterlife and get turned into a literal vegetable, everyone in the group finally collectively decides it's time to get the fuck out of here. Which in my opinion should have been done a little bit before they tried to do it in the game, but fuck it. Because it was all worth it just to see Kenny get that sweet, sweet get back.
Get back!
Just shoot him.
What? No, I just... Go on and wait outside. Dang it.
So Carver's death scene was really kind of our first glimpse, without really knowing it, into what Kenny would potentially become. Not that killing Carver was necessarily bad, but you could definitely see Kenny's core character slipping a little bit and him becoming maybe just a little darker and colder. Speaking of cold, our characters by this point were actually getting pretty cold in the story, and higher and higher risks every day of freezing to death or either dying of starvation. So this man right here decides that he can potentially help us find a house. It's up to the player whether they want to risk taking his word for it or not, but it all ends up really the same way. So it's pretty disappointing, but yeah, no matter what you do here, Luke is pretty much always going to die. Which really does suck because, in my opinion, I actually kind of did like having his character around. Clementine then gets pulled out of the water by Jane and somehow survives these very, very cold temperatures. Although, I will admit, they did give her a fire, so I mean, that does help, but still, I mean, that was pretty risky. And with Kenny slowly loosening his sanity all season, you already know he was not going for that at all.
Piece of shit, Kenny!
We then watch Kenny beat the living shit out of Arvo until Mike finally stops him, or the player feels bad enough. Let's be real, who even likes this guy? Oh. Eventually, some of the last few remaining members of our group try to steal some supplies with Arvo, and then actually even end up shooting Clementine just to never be seen again the entire series. So I think it's pretty safe to say that things are not going in favor for our group at all this season. But regardless, our group, or at least what's left of our group, still somehow decides to get into one last big final conflict before the season ends. Now, honestly, me and any other sane person would choose Kenny over Jane in this situation. Although, I do want to say that I do understand the Jane siders and Jane's whole theory, or just like side of things, I guess. And I mean, she definitely was not wrong. Kenny was definitely losing it, maybe just a little bit this season. but it's okay. Kenny is the main dog OG, so we can't ever really give up on him. So Kenny and Jane get to scrapping as they do in every playthrough, and ultimately and inevitably we are forced to make this very, very tough decision.
Fuck you!
Just kidding. Come on, guys. Y'all know we can't turn on Kenny like that. Well, actually, you can turn on Kenny like that. You can actually even kill Kenny in one of the endings. But regardless, this is my canon ending and most other people's canon ending in their opinion. So yeah, we're just going to go with this. Now, onto the ending portion of Season 2. Apart from Season 1, it's actually pretty interesting when we take a look here. Season 2 has a total of 7 different variations that you can get for the ending, and I'm showing them all on screen right now. And it's pretty crazy that number 1 is actually the most popular. At the time, a lot of people were a little bit mixed on how Season 2 concluded. A lot of people wanted to stay with Kenny, and that's what they ended up doing. Some other people decided that it would be better off for Clementine and AJ to stay at Wellington while Kenny goes off and does whatever Kenny does, because we never actually find out unless you stay with him. And well, in that case, things might not pan out so well for you in your playthrough. But regardless, it seems like no matter what we do to try to save Kenny, it all really just plays out the same way. And it's crazy because basically every single character from this season and last season are now dead. Which now leads us to one of the most hated and controversial seasons of the game. So, at first glance, back in 2016 when the game was first announced, players were very excited, to say the very least, about what they saw. It was different seeing a new character on screen for the first time, but something that had stayed the same throughout the entire series was the appearance of Clementine. And now she definitely appeared to be a little older, which made players a lot more excited for where her character might go. So with this, the future and the road to The Walking Dead Season 3 was set. The story for Season 3 opens up with a surprisingly new face if you hadn't watched the trailer before the game came out. His name is Javier, and we've never seen this character up until this point, which was part of the reason that players might have been drawn away from the story at first, because everybody knows they just want to see Clementine. Eventually, Javi makes it to his brother David, but unfortunately he is informed that his dad has already passed away, which is where we get our first bit of insight in between the relationship between Javi and his brother. A lot of players don't like David, for good reason, honestly. It might partly be because he beats the shit out of you in the first episode, or really just all of the other crazy things he does all season. But regardless, a lot of players don't even care about the season at all because they think that the choices are really irrelevant to the story, and honestly, it would be a little hard for me to disagree with them. That doesn't mean that I dislike this season at all, because honestly, I had a lot of fun playing it, and honestly, I would say I had more fun playing it than Season 2. Not that Season 3 is superior in any way, especially not the story, but just in terms of having something new to experience, it was a little bit refreshing, and it was good to still see Clementine kicking around in the story, because obviously we'd never wanted to discontinue that in the first place. But when you take a closer look at the season overall, I feel like something that's blatantly obvious is how unsteady the story building was for this season. I mean, if you just look at the trailer, you can notice something. If you look at Javi's neck, there's a New Frontier tattoo, which never actually happens in the game. I know it's just a small cut, but if you really look around a lot of things regarding when Season 3 was about to come out, you can literally find so many differences. It's actually kind of crazy. But this is the portion of the video where I kind of just want to talk about how I think that the season is a little bit misunderstood. Actually, it's a lot of it misunderstood. I don't even think this season is necessarily a trash season. But I'll get into why I think this season is actually pretty decent after we finish covering it. So, at this point in the story, a few of our survivors have been exiled from Richmond, and David meets them. But obviously, Clementine definitely was not going for this, considering David was the reason AJ was taken away from her in the first place.
He deserves worse.
After the player is either given the option to help their brother inside or listen to Clementine and try to let him die outside, Clementine and David then get into a scuffle over AJ. Although, if you can call this a fight, it was pretty one-sided, with Clementine being the victor, but we do get a pretty crucial piece of information to Season 3's story right here. That being that AJ had actually survived. But at this point in the story, we didn't exactly know if David was telling the truth or not, because for all we know, AJ could have been zombified by now, but we kind of just had to take his word for it, I guess. One other thing I do like about this season is all the flashback scenes, which a lot of them are kind of determinate depending on what you picked in the previous season, but still nonetheless a very good addition, I think. But anyways, eventually we get to episode 5 of season 3, and David and Javi get into their Garcia family scuffle, and all over Kate, which is pretty funny in my opinion, because I never really liked her in the game. But anyways, the player can then either choose to fight back or tell David that they love him to keep their promise to their dad. But in most people's playthroughs, it doesn't exactly go like that. But the situation is eventually de-escalated by Clementine and her Blicky. Now, Season 3 has a lot of different endings, but I'm not gonna lie, in the grand scheme of things, I guess it really doesn't matter which ending you got. But yeah, I'm not even gonna go and cover all of these endings in this video, even though this is a full series retrospective. I'm just gonna jump into the reasons why I think this season wasn't as trash as people say it was. It's no secret that the majority of the Telltale Walking Dead community agrees that this season is definitely the worst season, and I'm not gonna lie, I also agree, but I just don't think it's trash. To start off, I honestly really didn't mind the whole family dynamic between Javi and just like everyone else this season. I thought it was honestly a little bit refreshing. But also at the same time, a lot of people and myself were also like, where's Clementine? I want to see Clementine. We've been following her for the last 2 seasons, and you know, we would just want more content with her in it. And we did get that in a way, but we just didn't get to really play with her aside from the flashback scenes. But I thought that was honestly alright in my opinion. I didn't really mind it as much as other people. But it did at least give us some backstory into some things that players were asking. For example, like, where the hell is AJ for like basically the entire season? And depending on what you did with Lingard, you'll either find out a little bit earlier, or even if you keep him alive, he'll still end up telling you, so it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I just thought it was refreshing to see some new faces. I also did like the characters that they introduced this season for the most part, because I thought a lot of them were kind of cool and unique, and some of them were even crossovers of characters from other places that we definitely know very well, such as Jesus. And, you know, I really do just think it's a shame that we really don't get to see or hear about any of these characters from Season 3 any time or anywhere after this in Season 4. And I think that's where some of the hate comes from on this game, just because I feel like they got us semi-invested in these new characters just to not follow it up at all anymore, which kind of frustrated a lot of people, including me. I was also kind of like, damn, like, what was the point of that? But I mean, overall, I still enjoyed playing it, so it wasn't necessarily a bad season. It was just kind of annoying that they didn't follow up on that season. I think that they wrapped the season up in a pretty satisfying way, though, concluding Javi's story and all of the other characters that we had met this season, which, like I said previously, is pretty disappointing because I really did enjoy a lot of the people that we got to meet in this season. But it's okay because we still have one more season left to go in the video. But not before Javi finishes giving Clementine the worst haircut of all time. So once again, in my opinion, overall, really not a bad season, just wish we actually got more to follow up on with the season. But with all that being said, on to Season 4. this season opens up with Clementine and AJ cruising around in their new car from McHale Ranch, although the timeline on that is kind of rough, and I'm not exactly sure at what point in time they acquired it, but nonetheless, they head on to the train station in hopes of finding some food. And I'll give it to them, they do find some food, but it doesn't exactly go as planned.
That's a lot of stuff. Yeah, it is. We could eat for weeks with this much. It's rigged!
After the explosion, Clementine and AJ are forced to escape the train station, with walkers closing in. I think it's here that I should start to mention I really do like the art style for this season and the character designs that they went with, especially for Clementine. It's here that I kind of want to bring up cut content and cut designs for this season, especially when speaking about Clementine. If you guys remember, at the end of season 3, she left with this red sort of jacket. And as you can see in season 4, that is nowhere to be found. But if we go back to an early E3 trailer and a bunch of concept art, we can see that the red jacket appears here with the same character model that we're seeing in the gameplay. And this is just one of many scrapped things for this season. Most of the things that were scrapped for this season were mainly because of budget, and if you guys remember, Telltale Studios shutting down, but we'll get into that just a little bit later in the video. One of the most notable pieces of cut content from this season is a character named Jill and the variations we get from her in the concept art, which I'm guessing would show her from the beginning to how she would look somewhat near the end of the game. However, there is a character that we have met that did show up near the end of the game, and in fact halfway through all the way up until the very end, and depending on how your choices went, she could either live or die, but that's a story for another video. I just thought it was cool that we finally got to see a returning character, especially one all the way back from season 1. Kind of a shame that we never got to see Molly or Krista again, but I guess you can't have everything. And I guess that kind of brings me to the topic of Telltale's downfall and how they almost didn't even finish the series at all, actually. If it wasn't for our friend Dear Skybound Games, of course. Meaning without this studio, we might have never been able to see how this story actually ended up playing out, which would have really been a real shame in my opinion, considering that we've been through 4 seasons and 2 episodes at the time of the studio shutting down. So to cut the story short on such a legendary game, and especially in the last 2 episodes ever, would just be nonsensical almost. But at the end of the day, thanks to Skybound, they took over production for the last 2 episodes, and we got to see a fitting end to our series. And they put us through this.
Goofball?
Don't play with me.
Whoa. Easy there.
You're out of bed! You're walking! And you have wood arm legs.
So I think it's pretty safe to say that we all thought Clementine was done for here, or at least I did in my opinion. But with all that being said, guys, I think I'm going to finally be able to wrap up this video. I know I've been promising it for a really long time now, but it's finally here, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I got a little lazy towards the end, I won't lie. I'll do better in the next video. But yeah, with all that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.
Thank you.